Welcome to Open for Business. This is Monterey County. I'm your host, Mary Ann Leffel. We've got so many cool, wonderful things that happen here on a daily basis, and this show will give us an attempt to introduce you to some or reacquaint yourself with others and let you know what's going on in your area. So my first guest today is Kelly Sorenson. Kelly, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. So Ventana Wildlife Society, I love what you do. I think it's fabulous. And how many years have you been doing this?
I first came to California in 1991. The organization was reintroducing bald eagles at the time, and I have an expertise in bald eagles. And I applied for this job in Big Sur, California. I had no idea what it was like. I never even saw a picture. I didn't know a soul. And I drove across the country, and I landed here.
Lucky guy.
So lucky. And of course, I've never left.
So where were you from originally?
Well, I grew up on the East Coast and got my undergraduate degree at West Virginia University. And that's where I worked with bald eagles initially, was in that state.
Okay. Well, you know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, because my parents and my in-laws were still alive, so 20 years ago, we did the trip down, is it San Antonio or Nacimiento with the bald eagles?
Yes.
And it was so fascinating. Now, I think they all wanted to kill me by the end of the day because it was a driving rainstorm. And you know how you have to book in advance?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we drove an hour and 20 minutes to get here. We are going to do this tour. And I think my father-in-law probably got pneumonia from it, but it didn't kill him. But no one was too happy with me and my family afterwards. But the one thing was that we had two bald eagles that actually fought over something on the shore of the lake. And the park ranger about fell out of the boat. He was so excited because he said he'd never seen them fight like that over something. But it was really fascinating. And I'd never been in any type of thing like that. So it's good. It's good what you do. It's not just the conservation and the re-entrance, but it's also, I think, educating people like me and giving us an experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And the bald eagle was absent from Central California for 60 years.
wow.
You might see them in the wintertime passing through during that 60-year absence, but they weren't breeding here. And that was the aim of our reintroduction program in the 80s and 90s. And in fact, just published a paper and just had a nice big splash in the media, with a resounding success. The goal was only 4 breeding pairs in this area, and we have 30 now. So
I read that.
doing a really, really good. The bald eagles are completely on their own and self-sufficient, and that's really the same path that we're on for the California Condor as well.
Okay, so the condors, I actually first met you when, I don't know how many years ago, 10 maybe?
Yeah, about that.
When you did a study with Stanford.
Yeah.
Because we were very interested in reducing the cost of our agricultural firms doing business, particularly in the Salinas Valley, to be able, if they could use wind turbines. And everyone has said, no, they can't because of the condors. And I have admired you forever for what you did, because Supervisor Calcagno told me, if you want to go do something, Mary Ann, go solve this power problem. And I was like, oh, brother. But anyway, we teamed up with you, and we were able to do some, I think, community forums down in South County. And now when you see what Taylor Farms has with that first wind turbine, because I think, what was it, they could actually be allowed between Gonzales and north of King City, or there was like a span where they could be.
Yeah, I'd love to share a little bit more about that, because 10 years ago we didn't have any wind energy in Monterey County, and yet there's a wind resource that's quite good right in the center of the valley, predominantly from, say, Gonzales to north of King City is where you'll find the best wind. And if you just plot out all of the data points of where condors are in a two-dimensional space, you'll think that condors are all throughout the Salinas Valley, But we knew better because we know that condors are soaring birds, and when they fly over the valley, they need a lot of altitude to cross.
Because they're big.
Well, they're big soaring birds. They're not powered flyers like eagles are. So they don't like to get low down into a valley. It's dangerous for them because it's harder to fly out of there. So they get up, 2,000 meters above the ground and glide across the valley. When they get to the other side, they've lost probably 500 or 600 meters or so, but they're still plenty high enough to cross the valley. So, it would have been easy for us to say, no wind power whatsoever. We don't want anything like that, and fight the business community. It would have been real easy for that to happen. You see that all the time in environmental causes. And, we're about this community, not just the condors, and we're about the people and the health of this community. And so we looked at it and thought, well, maybe there's a way to strike a balance here. Maybe we could find places where you could put wind turbines up and not pose a threat to condors, or at least, you can't ever guarantee that to 100%, but we can help strategically locate turbines in the most appropriate places with respect to condors and other wildlife. And so far, 2 turbines have been put up, and I know it's made a big difference already in terms of the local renewable energy portfolio. So we're very proud of that. We've never had a condor fly into a wind turbine, and we aim to keep it that way. But both can coexist, and that's really the theme of our organization. Ventana Wildlife Society even includes the word collaboration in our mission statement. It's that important to us. So it's a little bit about who we are and what we did on that project.
Yeah, I love it. And every time I'm in Gonzales quite a bit, and I'm in South County a lot overall. And I feel proud when I go down there because I know that the Business Council had a part of that, and you were a key player in that. So thank you. Thank you.
Quite welcome.
So last month you had a group here from Associated Press.
Oh, yeah.
So what were you doing with them?
Well, we're finally now able to tell a little different story on the condor recovery effort. We've been at it for 20 years, and it's sort of like, all you hikers that are watching this show, you know what a false summit is. You keep hiking and you keep thinking you're at the top of the mountain, and no, we're not quite at the top of the mountain, and then you keep going and it's a false summit. And in a way, it's kind of felt like that for 20 years. We figured out what the number one threat was, which is spent lead ammunition, and we're addressing that head on by providing free copper ammunition to hunters and ranchers. Again, it's our collaborative way, or the Ventana way, we like to say sometimes. But I sort of lost my train of thought.
So Associated Press was here, so now you're starting to tell your story.
Yeah, thank you. So we're able to now tell a different story because we feel like we are at the top of the mountain now, where we see a path to success, that we see that it can be possible for the condor to survive on its own, just like the bald eagle is in this region. And we know we're on the right track because we're dealing with the number one threat, which is lead from spent ammunition, and that's why I got sidetracked, because that is our number one issue. And so I took the Associated Press up there so that they could get still photography and video news releases out there to start talking about the condor, not as a dinosaur relic that has to be fed all the time. That's not true. These birds are incredibly resilient and can survive on their own. And so that's the story that we're starting to now tell. In the next 5 years, we'll be closely looking at how close are these birds to becoming self-sustaining so that we can begin to let go. We have to put a clean food source out for condors because of lead that's found in their food supply. It's not because they need the food. Take, for example, the fires and floods that have prevented access to Big Sur.
Yeah.
We went 4 months without putting food out for the birds. And when we saw them again, we were a little bit nervous, but when we saw them again, they were all, really happy and doing well. Maybe a little bit more wild because they have to go work a little bit harder to find their food. But that's a good thing. And when
It wasn't the Kelly food truck showing up.
no, but you know, a lot of people are switching to copper ammunition, and hunters and ranchers really like the product and they like what we're doing. We're not blaming them. We're inviting them to the solution, and they're taking us up on the offer, and they like copper. It actually works really well for them, and so we're finding yet another win-win solution for wildlife and people on the Central Coast.
Well, I mean, everyone can coexist if someone isn't just totally demanding it their way and no way. I mean, I think that's really the key to life, is figuring out a way that we can all work together. And what do they say sometimes? The best solution is one that you don't totally love and I don't totally love, but we can get there. And, you know, I think that's where we have to be. There's no line and don't cross it. So that's a good thing. Yeah. So how many pairs of condors do we have now in the...
Wow, yeah, we had 9 or 10 active breeding pairs this year just in Central California, a similar number in Southern California. Total numbers, we have over 160 that are free flying in the wild in just California. Condors are also found in Arizona, Utah, and Baja, Mexico. And we still have some in captivity, you know, for safekeeping, and we're still captive breeding the birds. But they're now breeding in the wild on their own. And so every year we have a number of chicks that are being wild raised. And we're seeing fewer and fewer deaths because we're seeing lower lead, and we know we're on the right track. So it's exciting because the goal was 150 individuals in California with 15 breeding pairs, but they have to be self-sustaining. Well, we have the numbers, we have the breeding pairs. Now we just need to start to let go and make sure that we have a more broad switch from lead to copper ammunition, wherever the condors are anyway.
So now you have cameras, correct, where people can go on and see the nests?
Yeah, we have a streaming live camera right now. It's running on our website. There's 2 cameras that are functioning in Big Sur, and then there's another camera that's on a chick and a nesting pair down in Southern California called the Devil's Gate pair. And it's really, really a lot of fun to watch the interactions between the adults and the chicks and the adults to adults. And, you know, this is a very long-lived social species. When you get to know condors, you start to think, well, they're a little bit like us. And they're fascinating for that reason.
How long do they live?
Oh, well over 50 years.
Wow.
Very
I had
long
no
lived.
idea.
Yeah.
So do you want to give everybody the website that they can see
That would be great. Yeah, you can go to Ventana, WS, as in wildlifesociety.org.
Okay.
And also we're on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that.
All that stuff.
All that stuff. Just look up Ventana Wildlife. You'll find us.
So you've got a couple of events that are coming up.
Yeah, thank
you got one, the end of July out of the area, and then one in September?
Yeah, up at Walnut Creek on July 22nd at the Lindsay Wildlife Experience. But here locally, we'll be at the Sunset Center on September 8th, which is a Friday evening. And we're going to have a live raptor, a bird of prey of some kind. I'll leave that as a surprise, little tease. It's a lot of fun. You get to, you know, be up and close with this bird, really get to know them. And of course, it's our annual fundraiser, so we use that money to continue the Condor program, which, by the way, is funded almost exclusively from private donations. It is not supported by the government here in Central California.
So if people go on ventanaws.org, are the tickets available now?
Yeah, tickets are available for those events.
Okay.
The streaming live webcam is up and running, and our education programs, if you have little ones and they're looking for things to do for your kids, anywhere from ages 4 through 17, we have programs running every day. A team of 13 people and 4 15-passenger vans that take safety to a very, very high degree. So send your kids out on our camps too.
Okay, we've got just a couple minutes left, but I also want to talk about your role. Are you still chair of the board, or is that a rotating thing with the Parks District?
The Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District. Yes, I am.
Yes. So I so admire what you did. I know it was at great personal cost.
Oh, Measure E.
Yes, on Measure E, but the fact that that measure did pass, and that it is really to preserve the parks and the good work that the Regional Parks District does, and the Business Council supported the original.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess it was bill, and then we supported the second one. And I just really admire what you did, because I think the parks are so important. I think they're part of that whole visitor experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we actually have the URL wilcation.com. And you'll see us, we'll be working with you in this next year on some ideas of how to get people more out into your parks, but for our visitors to understand really what a wealth we have in this area of things, like seeing the birds. I mean, I think it's important that people really experience that. So
yeah, we have to have places where we can enjoy nature. Otherwise, I think the human fabric starts to fall apart.
yeah, I totally agree. So anyway, Kelly, is there anything else you want to?
No, thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so VentanaWS.org.
That's right.
Is the website. So go to it, take a look at these unbelievable live events that are happening right there in front of you. And September 8th, Sunset Center. Go online, buy some tickets, and go see one of these, we don't know what, raptors up close. So thank you. Don't go away. I'm Mary Ann Leffel. Monterey County is open for business. Be back in a minute. Thank you.